Hello and welcome to the NFU's Shed Talks podcast. I'm Luke Cox and I'm joined by my co-host, Bizza Walters.
Hello everyone, we have lots coming up in today's pod. Starting off from peonies to potatoes, we speak to two growers who are selling directly to the public.
My argument is that the food that most farmers grow gets eaten somewhere along the line, so why don't we just sell them direct and take more money for our produce, because that's what we need in order to save our businesses.
Our Westminster team reflect on the local elections and look ahead to the King's speech and what it means for farming.
They got themselves into a bit of a pickle when Reform UK brought forward a legal challenge against the government. They caved and elections were back on, which meant everyone had to play catch up, including us at the NFU.
And we headed further afield to Tanzania to hear how Farm Africa are helping women in agriculture.
After growing and cultivating it, they don't have the decision. The decision is taken by men, selling, using it, or doing anything. Men are the one who taking the decision on that. But women are engaged in all type of the crops now.
But before we get started, Bizza, we shared some exciting news from me in the last episode, and I'm pretty sure you've got your own exciting news. I think it links back to the New Year's resolutions that we talked about at the end of last year.
It does, Luke, and I think poor Angus obviously heard that episode on repeat far too much. And back in April, he actually did pop the question, and we are now engaged, which is really exciting. Yeah, very exciting. And I know you hate me for saying this, but we are exhausted. All the celebrating with friends and family. My voice is going, so I do apologise in advance for this episode. But yeah, it's a really special time and a very exciting bubble to be in.
I'm so pleased for you both. It's really exciting, and really sorry that you're feeling so tired. I'm guessing sort of sat here with my 9-week-old baby. It must be really difficult having all that partying and celebrating with it. I don't know how you're going to cope.
It's terrible, and I've got another 18 months or so of it now. But anyway, how are you? What's new?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm still getting used to the lack of sleep that parenthood brings, but otherwise doing really well. There's a lot going on in the world of farming and the world of the NFU at the moment. There's it's really exciting. It's a great time of year, I think. When we get these slightly warmer, sunnier days, there's lots progressing in the world of farming, especially in the crop sector. It's busy and it's exciting.
It is indeed. And one thing that is coming up towards the end of this month of May is Farm Fest, which is a brand new farming show / festival that has been backed by Clarkson's Farm, I believe. And that's being held at Stoneleigh, which is where your head offices are. So they're coming in to take over the Royal Showground, aren't they? And there's lots planned.
They are. It's very exciting. We haven't had a big show at Stoneleigh Park for a long time. And yeah, it's going to be really good to get hopefully lots of farmers in the same place and taking part in the weird and wonderful activities that Farm Fest has to offer. I saw one advertised recently, which was a take on battleships. And it was to do with cows walking on an 8x8 grid. And I'll probably leave the listener's imagination to work out what they've titled it. But there's lots going on at Farm Fest, isn't there?
There is, and I also believe that NFU members get 50% off their tickets.
They do, absolutely. We have a discount code that we'll make sure is in the show notes. So if people want to come along to Farm Fest, I'll be there on the Saturday. I think you'll be there all 3 days, Bizza?
All 3 days, yes. Lots going on.
I imagine you'll be super tired from your engagement parties, so I'm sure you'll cope well.
Well, if you're lucky, Luke, I might even buy you a pint on the Saturday and you can join in my celebrations with me. How does that sound?
That sounds like a great idea, Bizza. I'm going to hold you to that.
Anyway, let's get on with the show. First up, we are speaking to two growers who are selling to the general public, and they're selling peonies and potatoes.
Welcome, David and Luke. David Wheatley, founder of Petite Peonies, and Luke Ablett of Daintree Farm. David, can you start by telling us a bit about your business?
Yeah, so I'm a 4th generation farmer, although my granddad didn't have a lot of land. So my dad went down the tenant farmer route, and I managed to get myself Cambridgeshire County Council holding, and I've been there for the last 25 years, and we've got about 450 acres in North Cambridgeshire, Wisby, St Mary. We grow a range of crops and that, and I've had some cut flower peonies ever since I started. There was another tenant on there on the same farm, and I managed to take that over when he sadly passed away.
Thank you very much. And Luke, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your business, please?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, similar kind of story. So I come from, again, fifth generation farmer. I got a Cambridgeshire County Council holding. My grandfather was actually on the estate. So my dad's got the original family farm. So I applied in 2011 because the family farm wasn't big enough to kind of support me, if you like, going into the industry. So I managed to get hold of the county council holding. I started off growing potatoes way back before I got it. I had an acre and I used to go around fish and chip shops selling early potatoes, and that kind of built a bit more up, and then I got the holding and I've been here ever since. And now the holding was 300 acres. I started with 120 and we're built up now to about 400, being county council farm and other private landlords as well. So we're all tenanted, we don't actually own anything.
Fantastic, thank you. And listeners might have worked out that we're talking here a lot about direct to consumer sales and that growing shift of farmers innovating and trying to add value to what they're growing on their farm. David, you've got a flower business that's selling around 100,000 peony stems a year, I think largely through social media, isn't it? How have you built that, established it, and then grown it to where it is today?
Yeah, so it all started basically out of necessity more than want. We had 2019, we had a farm fire, which took out 95% of everything that I owned. And although we were insured, COVID hit 2 or 3 months later, and I slowly went into a downward spiral of depression and financial difficulty. And especially when I've picked all my flowers and then there's suddenly no markets for them to sell them. So we took quite a few losses in a row. And TikTok was becoming a thing back then. So I did fill my house up with my flowers at the time, made a few TikToks and a few went viral. So I thought there's got to be something in this. And then over the past 5 years, I've been building it up. And last year was the first year I said no to the supermarkets. And we sold every single one, mainly making silly or funny videos and entertaining anybody that would look at peonies online or through my social media. And we sold 100,000 stems through the post last year. And not only was it easy, I made more money and it was enjoyable. And I'm having that direct link back to the consumer. If there is any problems, we know about them and we can usually sort them out. And I feel like it's a lot better way of doing business than hoping and praying that somebody that's not paying you very much is going to take your produce and pay you after a certain amount of time.
And so you don't have any contracts with supermarkets at all now, so you're fully reliant on the supply chains you've built up. And like you say, I guess that's gives you more control over that supply chain and those relationships. And it sounds like more enjoyment as well.
Yeah, it's still scary because you have to. Social media posts don't last very long, so usually only got 24 hours to do stuff. So you've got continuously doing something, and you're still using somebody else's platform, which they can drop out. So there's still some risks, but I'm on all the platforms at the moment and put the same stuff on everything. And at the moment, it's going all right. So I'll take it while it's here.
Absolutely. And Luke, you've done something similar, haven't you? You talked about your potatoes, and actually you started off selling them to fish and chip shops. And I think now you're reaching consumers directly through potato boxes and marketing that way.
Yeah, I am. So I started off doing the fish and chip shops, bagging them up in small quantities, and I managed to slip in before their main merchant gets in. So we still grow potatoes for the fish and chip market. But that over the last 2 years has really declined to the point now where I couldn't sell a potato. Like, I haven't even sold a potato. I sold 12.5 tonne to the trade. Apart from that, I've had no more orders to fish and chip shops. So anything like this is born out of necessity. So I'm sitting on a literal shed load of potatoes that I can't sell, and that is a lot of money that I've tied up in this. So I started, again, piggyback on, I don't want to say grandfather because it makes sounds David old, but like the forefather, if you like, of this is David. And I saw like he's going direct to the consumers, so I was like, if I can just put a few bags out there and sell in the local area, I'll be happy. And from there it kind of took off a bit more, and then we started posting potatoes, which I can't believe actually worked. So yeah, I managed to piggyback off my social media presence, if you like, and built it that way. My social media presence was slightly different, as I started off doing a lot of school talks within schools and stuff, and educating the public and mainly children about how we do agriculture. And then COVID hit, and I couldn't go into schools and stuff, so I started doing them online. I actually saw the NFU education and said, "Can you do some videos and we'll put them out online for you?" And that's how I got started with them. And from there, it kind of rolled, and then I managed to piggyback off that to then start selling my produce and stuff. So I try and do a bit of both, so still education, but then still selling. So yeah, we managed to shift around about 40 tons now, direct to the public, which doesn't seem a lot, but it's still mind blowing that I managed to get rid of that amount of potatoes compared to the trade, which I've only sold 12 and a half, and I've managed, like, the trade price, I might as well just give them away, to be honest with you. They barely cover the bags I'm putting the potatoes in, so it's that bad. So yeah, we're still doing all right. I can't believe how it's working, to be honest with you, and it's all down to people like David that has created this market for us. I can't say that I did it myself at all. I literally just followed. I think I said before, I've jumped on David's bandwagon, and I'm staying on it until the bus stops.
It sounds like you've really taken that opportunity, Luke, and touching back to the education piece, you're definitely a role model for the NFU education work. So we're always very grateful for that. And I guess what you've both talked about there is the need to adapt in adversity, and you both had challenges you had to overcome, and you've sought out innovative solutions to make sure you can market your produce and ensure the business is profitable. Luke, you say you're quite surprised that the posting potatoes is working. Can you tell us a bit more about that model and how that actually works in practice?
Hey, I can do. Like, I've been an about doing it. Like, again, seeing what David's been posting out and stuff, and I actually rung David about it. I didn't think, because potatoes are such a low value product, when you're trying to put them in the postage is actually more than what the value of the product is. So I didn't think it was going to take off, to be honest with you, but it just has. And it's the mindset of the consumer. So a lot of people that come in contact want to support farming, they want to bypass supermarkets, they want to go direct to the farmer, but they kind of don't want to go, well, they don't, or they just can't be bothered to go to farm shops. They think when they go to a farm shop, they're going to get ripped off, pay higher prices. So they want to support local farmer, but also get value for money. But they, like I said, they can't be bothered to go and pick it up. But if you post it to them, it comes direct to their door. It's this kind of mentality that society's got now. We can click and get anything we want the next day. So it comes down the same with food that they want. They want it, they want to click it, they don't want to leave the house and get it. So therefore I make sure that I bring it to them. And you can tell, even with the bags I deliver more bags than people coming to pick them up at the farm. I've had 15 people pick them up at the farm, but I've delivered nearly over 14 tons worth of potatoes, or 40 tons worth of potatoes. So that kind of shows you about how society's going, if you like.
It's a great story, and I guess a key message within that is that you didn't actually think yourself that it was likely to be a successful venture, especially through the cost of postage, but turns out what the consumer was after was exactly what you were offering. David, you've also obviously innovated a lot, but your business is in a very different place, I guess, to where it was in 2019, 2020. I mean, how close was that business to collapsing and being completely unviable? And I guess, how does it feel today to have turned it around to where it is today?
Yeah, it was. I started off in quite a good position, so you have a bit of savings, and you've built up all your machinery and your working capital. But over 3 years, it soon deteriorates really fast, really quickly. And with farming, you only get one chance to harvest your crop and make your money. And then that you've got another 12 months before that's going to happen again. And if it doesn't happen, it is mentally destroying more than the financial losses. And I think I worked it out. I had to earn £22,000 a month for 2 years just to not go bankrupt. And whatever you do, you're on a time limit of like a month, and then it resets again, and you've got to pay the same again. And it's the same with earning a living is one thing, but paying back debt is a completely different ball game. And it got to the point where you can do whatever budgets you like. Whatever I did, I couldn't afford to sell to the supermarkets no more. So it was a risk. Is this going to work? And for the first few years, it only just worked enough to keep me in business. And you don't even think it's going to work. And then all of a sudden, you only need one one TikTok that I did, we started selling apples through the post as well, which, like Luke said, it's a low cost product, and I didn't think it was going to work. But out of one TikTok, I sold 30 acres worth of apples for £1 each, and it's just mental what social media can do these days. And I can be in front of somebody, I can be in front of my customers' doors, of their screens 24 hours a day, every day. And sometimes I wake up in the morning and I've sold a load of stuff without even doing anything. It's just nuts. I'm still in belief of what's happened. And I did my books last night, and I don't know what's happened, and I get asked to do stuff thinking that I'm famous, and I don't feel like I'm famous or anything like that. I'm just a farmer trying to make a living, but it seems to be working for me, and there's no reason why it can't work for other people.
I think that's the beauty of it. Listeners will know I lead the combinable crop sector at the NFU, and we're obviously the least connected to the consumer in terms of our commodity, and adding value to products is a real way of trying to build more resilience into your business, and you've clearly done that. And you talked about apples there, David, but what else have you sort of diversified into since the peonies and the apples to keep spreading that risk, I guess?
We still got 300 acres of crops that lose money most years, or makes very little.
Tell me about it.
With the weather and every farmer's in the same position, and they all message me and say, well, I'm not going to get rid of 1,000 tons of wheat, am I? And I'm thinking, I'll have a go. So I bought myself a grain mill, and we've been milling that for a few months, and the capacity is not that great on it, and we've only just got caught up with the orders that we took on it because we're selling so much of it. So and if that won't mean that there's not a market out there for it, my argument is that the food that most farmers grow gets eaten somewhere along the line. So why don't we just sell them direct and take more money for our produce, because that's what we need in order to save our businesses.
You're absolutely right. And Luke, David talked about all the various platforms that he's using on social media. You've obviously, like you said, got a bit of a history of using social media for other things before you're now utilizing it for the potato business as well. How do you utilize those platforms and get the most from them, and I guess reach the audience that you want to?
Well, what I've been finding is when I put a video on, like David said, the sales just go up. So I try to do the connection with what I'm selling. So it's how do we grow it? Where did the seed come from? Show like everything, the ups and downs. Like when you buy a bag of potatoes off me, I do a video before that, and you can actually see me bagging the same potatoes as what you're going to get delivered or posted that day. Could I put like a vlog on every day, or just some odd bits and pieces now and again? And you see it's the direct link between what I put on and then sales. So I try and showcase everything what we're doing, and that's how I go for the transparency. Because you can go through the audits, all the audits you want for fresh produce, red tractor, but people can actually see what I'm doing. They can see the shed, they can see the machinery, they can see me and Carolyn on the grader. You can't get no more transparency from that. And I've got to circle back to what David said about being famous. Do you know the amount of people that can't believe that I know David Wheatley? So that's how famous he is. They're like, you know this guy? It's like, yeah, I've known him for quite a few years, yeah. They're like, really? Yeah, he put a fence up in my garden, when I first got in here. Yeah, I know him, and they just can't believe it. And the amount of people have asked me, I've never actually took him up on it to see if I can get him to do stuff for us. And I'm like, well, I'll have a word with him to see if they could come and open a charity show or something like that, or can we get him in to talk? So yeah, no, you are pretty famous, David.
Seemingly more famous than you realise. And Luke, obviously, a lot of social media is based on sort of trends and people's feelings in that moment. So is this a bit of a niche, or is this a long-term change that's going to completely sort of shift the way that farming operates?
With anything, you just don't know. But I think this might be the way that it's going to go now. People do want to buy direct. They want to cut supermarkets out. People can't, want to support farming, but again, they can't be bothered to do it. So it's the directness. If you can put it in their faces, if you can get them delivered quickly the next day, make it as easy as you can, it will be a sustainable model going forward. I could see it staying, and I think people are going to change, and we're going to go back to how we was a good few decades ago now, where people want to go back to the the raw necessities, if you like. Someone said to me once that they love to have a bag of potatoes back in the house. They used to be a sack in the corner of the kitchen kind of family, and they're going to go back to doing that now. So I can see it changing. I can see my business is changing around this now. I'm saying I'm trying to wean myself off the trade, if you like, and try and do a lot more direct. Like I don't really want to go down veg boxes because that's going to get very confusing when you start doing that. So I'm trying to stay away more in bulk longevity. So we're talking, potatoes, carrots, onions, something that people can buy in bulk and then keep in the kitchens for a long period of time. So yeah, I can see it staying, and I can see a lot more people trying to do it as well, and they should. Like the appetite's out there, so why not capitalise on it?
Absolutely, that's great to hear. And hopefully, I'm sure the listeners to the podcast will be inspired by those messages that you've given and the success that you've both had. Obviously, David, you seem to be very clearly the inspiration for Luke and his business that he's grown. But when you started this, who was your inspiration? What gave you that sort of impetus to take this on? Or was it really just your own idea that, like you say, out of necessity, you just had to give it a go?
Yeah, well, I think I'm just really stubborn. I knew I didn't want to pack up, and I knew that I probably should have walked away because we don't own the farm. It takes so long to get into farming. I knew that if you pack up, you ain't coming back again. So I was just desperate in trying anything there is possible, just so that I could live with myself, to know that if I had packed up and gone bankrupt or not been able to continue, then I've done everything there is possible. But now it's just opened my eyes up completely of what is possible. I do feel like it's going to happen whether the farmers are involved with it or not, because I don't think people even want to go to the supermarkets no more. You can get stuff delivered to your door the very next day. And if farmers don't grab this by the horns and take it, somebody else will, and they'd be controlled the rest of your life. I feel like it's more of an opportunity now, and people are looking at me to try and make up the new cooperative between farmers. And we did have a go, and I know how difficult it is to try and make these things work with the veg boxes, because we had a go doing that as well. And we sold £60,000 worth of veg boxes in 2 weeks just before Christmas, before we had to close it down. I'm trying to sort the problems out of what we've got, and now it's early days with my flowers, but whatever I pick, then we've been sending that produce the very same day to get to your door before 12 o'clock tomorrow. And if I can do that with flowers, I can do that with anything. And if I can do it, I'll tell every other farmer out there what to do and how to do it. And I think we can take this and roll with it, and we can compete with the supermarkets, because we know what we're doing with produce. We just need to know how to sell it and market it. And if we can produce food that's fresher, cheaper, and get it to your door when you want it, then nobody's going to compete with that.
If that's not inspirational to farmers out there, then I don't know what is, David. We are out of time. Just before we wrap up, it'd be good to just hear one piece of advice from both of you, to farmers who are listening, that they could take on board to take their first step on the journey you've been on. David, can I come to you first?
Yeah, so if you're just getting started, my best advice is just take one product of what you know inside out and talk about that on social media all day long, and it will sell itself. You don't even have to have it to sell to start off with, and just start off with one product to one person on one platform, and you'll get better and more comfortable doing it. And if it's going to work, it'll work, and if not, at least you've had a go.
And Luke, I'm going to pigeonhole your advice slightly, because I think it's quite clear from both your businesses that social media is quite a key tool. So in terms of advice for people who perhaps don't use social media as much, but that's the tool that's going to give them the best market access, what's your one piece of advice that will help someone get involved with social media and make the most of it?
Sell your story. That's basically it. You know what you're doing. Show people what you're doing. Don't be scared to show them how you grow stuff, why you grow stuff, and how it's done. Really make that connection between what you're growing and what they're buying. They can see what they're getting. The same as, like David said, have a go, but show them the whole process. And I think people will. I think people will get that connection and want to buy the produce off you because they like you. Sometimes it's not exactly the product, they want to buy your product. That's why they selected my potatoes or David's peonies, they want to buy direct from that person, not a faceless supermarket.
Brilliant. That's great advice. And it's been really inspirational to hear from both of you. This has probably been one of my most interesting interviews. Thank you so much both for your time. And I'm sure we'll be hearing from you again soon. Thank you.
A really fascinating segment there between David, Luke and Luke to hear all about how farmers are having to become resilient and turn to members of the public to sell produce. The farm fire that David experienced has forced him to sell direct, and Luke has obviously taken that on board, learned and also done similar. So they're clearly great advocates and entrepreneurs as well. We are now heading to our Westminster team to see what's been going on there.
Hello everyone and welcome to this week's NFU in Westminster. You have Rory Hodges and
Niamh McGinty. Now, we're speaking to you the morning after a string of pretty interesting local elections. While we don't have all of the results through just yet, the main things you need to know is that it was a bad night for the traditional parties, so Labour and the Conservatives. It was a great night for Reform UK and the Greens, and the Lib Dems were somewhere in between all of that. Now, these local elections have been on quite the journey and were subjected to one of the many government U-turns which elevated the external affairs team's blood pressure. As a reminder, earlier this year, Steve Reid, local government secretary, former DEFRA secretary, initially wanted to delay 30 council elections in England until 2027. And basically, ministers justified the delays by arguing that some councils were worried about costs of running elections in authorities that were due to be abolished as part of Labour's overhaul of local government in England. However, they got themselves into a bit of a pickle when Reform UK brought forward a legal challenge against the government. They caved and elections were back on, which meant everyone had to play catch up, including us at the NFU. I'd like to offer a bit of sympathy to Rory, who's our local government and devolution lead in external affairs. Now, Rory, talk us through how much you rolled your eyes over this U-turn in particular and the work that's been going on to get candidates standing for the local elections briefed on food and farming.
I mean, look, I was suddenly faced with a lot more to do, but at the end of the day, that's what I'm paid for. So I can't grudge it too much. But there was a lot of stuff that we need to do. We had a lot more councils up for election, a lot more candidates that do have control over areas that affect farmers, and we just wanted to get them up to scratch on all the issues that, if they are lucky enough to win, which, we'll be finding out over the course of today, how they can support farmers in their areas. But our colleagues Scott and Joe spoke about some of the areas. I won't go into them in too much depth, but, you'll have things like planning, procurement, making sure that your waste disposal sites are accessible to reduce fly tipping, all these sorts of things that do have an impact on farmers. So we'll be keeping a close eye on the election results as they come in, but we'll be working with the new councillors and regional colleagues to make sure that they are supporting their farmers.
Yeah, definitely. Lots going on across England, and NFU doing a lot of work to brief those candidates ahead of these elections. And while we cover England, our Cymru and Scottish colleagues have also been very busy as we had the Senedd and Holyrood elections. Counting has just begun for the devolved races. It's looking like the SNP is on course for a fifth term in office in Scotland, and Labour have got quite the battering in Wales at the hands of Plaid Cymru and Reform UK. So it's not been quiet locally and in the devolved nations. But as always, we've also got some news to report from Westminster, which comes in the form of not one, but two wins, doesn't it, Rory?
So obviously, Parliament was prorogued last week, and as we said, prorogation is just the end of the session. But one of the things that happens is you've got to get all of the bills that you haven't had a carryover motion for completed. And so right in the last sort of 3 days, you had both the Lords and the Commons, I won't say scrapping, they were negotiating on the passage of various bills that were going through, and as part of this, we managed to get 2 NFU wins. So the first one, and I'll start with this one because it doesn't sound like the most thrilling piece of legislation, but it was on the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Bill, well, now Act, I should say, and basically just meant this bill gave the government the ability to create new mayors, new strategic authorities across the country, and devolve power out of Westminster into the regions. Now, when we were first looking at the powers that these new mayors will have, they had about 7 of them, but none of them mentioned rural affairs. So you had things like transport and infrastructure, skills and employment, housing, economic development, the environment and climate change, health and public safety. But none of them specifically said anything about rural affairs. And we thought this was a bit of an oversight. And the Lib Dem peer, Baroness Bakewell, had agreed with us, and so she put forward an amendment that would have made rural affairs its own competency. So rural affairs was going to be its own competency. And the Lords agreed with her. So that went to the Commons. The Commons initially said no, because the government whipped their MPs against it. And they basically said, the reason we're doing this is we think rural affairs will be covered appropriately by all these other ones. We weren't very happy with that position. So it goes back to the Lords. The Lords insist on their amendment. So having heard the Commons say no, they actually turned around and said, no, we are going to push this again. We are going to insist on this amendment. And then it put the government in a bit of a difficult position, because if you didn't come to a compromise at that point, you lose the bill. So it goes back to the Commons. We'd been lobbying MPs in between this, saying, look, we want this amendment because it'd be better for our members. And the government, upon the second time, when the Lords after they did insist, they did agree to it. They did make a slight change, so it's not just rural affairs, it's now rural affairs and coastal communities. But we were very happy that they agreed with their lordships and put the amendment forward. The benefit of the amendment is that throughout the setting of these new mayors' priorities, rural voices are going to be part of the conversation from the beginning, and they're not just going to be left at the end as a sort of afterthought. But it also means as well that the new mayors can appoint a commissioner for rural affairs. And so that means you'll have one person for each strategic authority who is directly responsible for that. A bit like a cabinet minister. And they'll be the ones who are responsible for the setting of priorities throughout these regions.
Yeah, big shout out to our allies in the House of Lords for being real ones and getting that through.
And then, the second one that we had, and this probably sounds a bit more interesting to everyone, but it relates to the Crime and Policing Act. And there was an element within that, and it says that goods that are electronically tracked, the police can now enter premises where they think these stolen goods are without the need of a warrant. That's probably an issue that a lot of people think about. I personally haven't had this happen, but I know a couple of people have. See, when you get your phone nicked, and you go on, you find your iPhone or similar apps, and it tells you exactly where it is, and you're like, right, to the policeman, my phone is in there, but they can't do anything because they, at that point, need to apply to a court for a warrant to enter the premises. We don't have that anymore. So the police officers now will have the power to enter a premises where they suspect a stolen good is. Electronically tracked stolen good, I should say. But if you look at the wording of the amendment or the clause, it does sound like it would just apply to your phones and whatnot, but actually it also applies to electronically tracked ATVs and stolen vehicles. And so we know thieves do look at farm vehicles and ATVs, and they do treat them as a bit of prime real estate that they do want to take. So these new powers will be able to be used for these instances. And the hope is that if you are reducing the time that it takes to get these back, you could just reunite them more with owners, because they're not going to be as flogged as easily or as quickly. So very happy with that one. The government actually put it in there. We were very happy with the wording. So it was one of those very happy instances where we didn't actually have to do all that much pushing, but we were very happy that the government did it, and we, very thankful. And the NFU would obviously always encourage our members, where possible, to put electronic tracking on their devices. The main thing with the bill is, we got that. But rural crime is still an issue that our members have to deal with, whether that's, fly tipping, hair coursing, livestock worrying. So very happy, but the next message to the government is to build on these positive developments.
Yeah, definitely. We know rural crime is such a big issue. When we go out and speak to members, Rory, it's something that always comes up. So this is a really, really positive win for us, and credit where credit is due to government for including that within the bill. Now, when this podcast lands, we may well have had a cabinet reshuffle, but we will also be one day out from the state opening of Parliament, where we will have the King's speech, which will outline the government's legislative priorities, alongside all the pomp and pageantry which makes British politics so elite. We will be keeping our eyes on a few bills. They include the EU Reset Bill, the Water Reform Bill, and the Police and Reform Bill. So take this as a bit of a teaser, as we will do a proper King's Speech deep dive on the next episode. We just wanted to keep you updated with what's coming down the line. So until then, thanks for listening, and see you later.
We've been keeping up to date on the main headlines linked to the Iran conflict and how it's having such a big impact on the farming industry and our members. I'm joined again by my colleague Jack Watts, Chief Economist at the NFU. Jack, can you shed some light on some of the commentary we have seen around regenerative farming and the role it might play in mitigating the impacts of the conflict?
Hi, Luke. Yeah, thanks for having me. And of course, I think it's an important discussion that's being had. I think the key thing to start out with is to say that let's not treat regenerative agriculture as a prescription. It's not doing the subject justice. And so there's a lot of calls of should we put a rigid definition around it. That's not really doing it justice. No, regenerative agriculture is about applying those 5 principles of it, and there's some really good books for people to read up on to get into that detail. And the key thing with Regen Ag is that it's a long-term commitment. And it actually should be well placed in the UK because we have that good gentle mix of livestock and arable being very generic about it, and so there should be an opportunity. But the key thing is that it is adjusting systems to a new system over time, adjusting soil health. I think where I take issue is that the fertiliser issue that we're dealing with out of the back of the Iran war is it's causing us an immediate issue in the affordability of fertiliser to grow crops, not just here and around the world. And whilst regen is really important and it can offer some long-term solution, it's not going to be the quick fix that actually we need to actually make fertiliser available and affordable to be able to enable farmers to actually produce the crops that the market needs as we head towards Harvest 27.
You're absolutely right, Jack. The impacts of the conflict are absolutely immediate, and I guess some of these farming practices are longer-term changes, whether it's integration of livestock into farming systems, whether it's growing more protein crops on farm. Obviously, the NFU has an ask for support to grow more protein crops in the UK and produce more domestic protein. All those things might mitigate some of our exposure to risk in the long term, but the immediate impact is the stark reality of the lack of profitability in some farming sectors and the impact of inflated input prices like fuel and fertiliser having a very immediate real impact on farm businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm happy to share. Well, not happy to share, but we've got to be concerned of where we are with the arable sector at the moment. We're not in a resilient place. We've come off the back of some really challenging years in terms of production and in terms of price. And we do have some structural issues. We don't have enough diversity in our crop rotation, and so it's really important that we can understand what are the levers we can pull to help bring more diversity into our crop rotations. And that's where Regen Ag can play a really important long-term role. Farmers that are able to integrate livestock, brilliant. That's a whole new level of Regen Ag. But let's have a discussion immediately about actually we've got an immediate fertiliser crisis. Farmers are really scratching their heads about how on earth are we going to afford to grow not this year's crop, but we're talking about Harvest 2027. We can see this coming over the hill towards us in the not too distant future. And let's not pretend that as powerful as Regen Ag is, that it's going to solve the problems that we're at risk of facing next year.
You're absolutely right. And like you say, the sector, especially in arable sector, doesn't have the confidence or the cash flow to take on any more risk in that situation. So it does need the support to make those changes. And Jack, finally, before we move on, what's next for the NFU's work in this area?
Yeah, it's really important. So we've come through this phase, and where are we? Nearly 10 weeks through this conflict and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which is at the heart of a lot of the disruption that we're seeing. And it's almost become almost business as usual, really. And the key part of this is the realisation that this isn't a short-term thing. This is now becoming a material thing for agriculture and the world in terms of how it accesses crop nutrients and grows crops. And to that end, we are thinking ahead, and we're building our evidence base. Okay, let's look at inflated diesel prices. Let's look at inflated fertiliser prices, and indeed what availability implications might be with nitrogen, phosphate, and indeed something as quirky as sulphur, and start to model, well, what does that mean for what farmers might respond with this autumn? And so what we're doing, we're starting to model the implications of what that might look like for harvest 2027, and really giving government a really firm understanding of what that looks like and what's coming down the road if we're not careful. And we need to remember that from a UK point of view, or from an England point of view, English arable farmers are some of the least supported in the world now. If we would go back 4 years ago to the Ukraine crisis, direct support onto farmers worth about 1.4 billion. That's virtually disappeared. And so unlike sort of European counterparts and a lot of policies happening in the US and the broader Western world, there's a real challenge of cash resilience to get through a crisis like this. And it's really important that our policymakers really understand the peril that creates for production decisions as we head into 2027.
Thank you, Jack. I'm sure we'll hear from you again soon. It's important to hear about the latest politics and geopolitics affecting our world, and it's all very challenging. So let's move on to a more positive story. We spoke to Helena Lawi talking about the role of women in agriculture in Tanzania. Helena, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your background, please?
Thank you. My name is Helena Lawi. I'm from Tanzania. I'm working with Farm Africa as a gender focal person. And I'm working with, now it is almost 7 projects, whereby I'm the overseer of gender issues. And also I'm taking part of making sure that the involvement of gender are inclusive in the all projects.
Wow, so it's plenty to keep you busy then, Helena.
Yeah.
And how did you find yourself in this role? How long have you been with the charity for?
More than 8 years now. I'm working with the smallholder farmers, and it's not only about the farming issues, but also about all activities that involve women, to make sure that the involvement in their community activities is taking part of. And not only that, but we are making sure that participation of women, voices of women are being heard and seen from the country or from the area that they are coming from.
I think it's fair to say that there's barriers to women accessing agriculture across the world. Can you tell us a bit about the specific challenges in Tanzania and Africa that you're addressing with your work?
We have many things that are the barrier. The first thing is the capital. The second thing is the resource management. Another thing is that opportunities, and they also another thing that we are facing, it is all about the patriarch system that it's cutting across all over the region. So the region all over the Tanzania, that women are not supposed, they are not allowed to do this, especially in economic issues. And also after cultivating, women are not allowed to participate in marketing. Women are not allowed to know what about the economic issues under their family levels, how they are taking place. So women have been silently, not to raise their voice due to the culture, norms, taboos that occur in our places, especially in these local families. So you can see that there are so many barriers, but all in all, it's about the capital. It is all about that readiness that women can go forward doing something, because they don't have the support from their men. If they got the support, we believe that they are doing well and well.
How is this shift of women having more involvement being accepted within the different communities?
There are some places where it is very hard to make sure that women are involved. But there are some places we are doing our best, and then we are getting the positive results. Especially if you go to the areas that there are these animal keepers, it's very hard even to do the trainings. So what we are doing is to try to inject the training, different training involve men, so as maybe we can try to open their mind, try telling them that this, if you can do this for the women, something can happen. Even education is a challenge to young women. So we are trying to give the education. We are trying to tell them the benefits of giving the opportunity to women or to girls, so as to make sure that all women and men are getting the equal chance in their activities.
I think when you're looking to create any sort of business, you need that diversity of thought to make sure that you're looking at challenges and opportunities from multiple different angles. And obviously the work that you're doing is introducing much greater diversity of thought. Have you got examples of outputs from this that have already seen businesses operate better and deliver sort of more productively?
Yes, we have some of women are doing better, and we have some of the families that have been women are taking part on it, and then we are just using those families as an example to other families. But not only that, we are using the men to give the testimony to other men, to the other fellow men, to tell them how they have benefits after giving the opportunity to their women. So doing that, it's just like it will take a time, but it is very slowly, and then you are going to get we get the results on that.
And obviously building this confidence as well is really important in the women, because if culturally they have always been the ones to stay at home and look after children, and they haven't been allowed to get involved, that's as important, isn't it, as the capital and leadership as well. So how are you installing this confidence into these women?
We are giving we are just, the first thing that we on doing my duty, what I understand is sometimes facing women directly, you cannot get the results. So we are just trying to talk with the men. We're just trying to do something which giving these men to be in one place, whereby they have the coffee, and then you just inject something. You just tell them about the gender issues. You just tell them about the participation of women, giving the women opportunities, and wherever they bend. Those things are the one we are just trying to tell them. But back to women, I'm giving them the confidence by telling them that we can do something. But as we know, our husbands, our daddies, we need to know how to approach them. It's not that you are going directly. My husband, I want now to go to the market. I want to buy this. I want to sell this. No. We just try to do the slowly approach, so as the women can get a confidence on that. The women can do something. They can try even to participate and to give the results on what they want to do.
You're obviously working really closely with the husbands and wives, or mothers and fathers, men and women. Because you're working closely with them, are you seeing a change in the next generation? So young girls and young boys, is their mindset different as to what's expected of them as they're growing up?
Yes, there is a great change. We are trying to tell the women, and we are trying to tell the men that don't divide the activities. Both men and the women should do the both activities, especially on young girls and the young boys. They have both to engage in the activities, and also they have to work together, so as at the coming years or at the coming generation, it will be easier for them to know that there is no division of that women should do this and the men should do this. No, they will all do those work together. So what we are doing is to make sure that try to tell them that even the time you are just trying to take care of your baby, just tell them that they are all equal. There is no changes that you as a woman and you as a man, there is no any different, especially on working, especially on thinking capacity, on also on confidence and everything. So that can give us the impact on the coming generation. Through that, women and men can change, for our new generation will change. And also I can see, for example, we have our Masai tribe here in Tanzania. We can see now girls are going to school. We can see now women are working, men are working equally. We are just trying. This is because of all the projects that has been cutting across all over the places in Tanzania. So we can see the changes. We believe that coming generation, the changes will be more and more and more.
It's brilliant to hear the changes that you've already seen and that you're making with this work. Can you tell us a little bit more about the specific things that women in Tanzania are now doing in farming? So traditionally they would have been sort of growing household crops and doing things for the home, and now they're able to sort of focus much more on the cash crops. So what crops could you now see women growing in Tanzania that they weren't before?
Thank you for a nice question. Yeah, previously women were growing these small crops like nuts, like vegetables, but not those cash crops. But now the women are growing cash crops. They are trying to grow it like sunflower, like sorghum, like maize, pad, and everything. But after growing and cultivating it, they don't have the decision. The decision is taken by men. Selling, using it, or doing anything. Men are the one who taking the decision on that. But women are engaged in all type of the crops now.
Brilliant. And in terms of how the farms operate, women still working individually on farms, or are there sort of cooperatives and collaboration between farms to enable them to work with more scale and more commerciality?
It's not like that, especially maybe if they got the opportunity from their men and even that man is there. But out of that, no. Women are not allowed to do anything like a corporate. For the project, if we go to introduce the project in the area, we need to sensitize all the villages. And after that, some of men can allow their women to work with us, can allow women to work with other corporates, and can allow women to work with other companies. But out of that, if husband said no, you will not even dare to join the program.
Wow, gosh, it's very different to us over here in the UK, isn't it, Luke?
Certainly is.
And for people that are sitting at home and listening to this podcast, if people wanted to donate to Farm Africa, to this particular project maybe, what difference would that money make?
We are working specifically to empower women and the youth. And these are I can say that it is an area whereby we need to see the changes. We need to see the empowerment. If we empower women, if we empower youth, we make the involvement to them. It seems that this generation will be the good generation because everyone will know what to do and everyone will be committed on doing the different activities. Sometimes these men or women or young people want to do something, but they don't have where to start. They don't have someone to take them, to take to train them, to give them the support, the small support that they need. But if we get the money from Farm Africa, I know, as the way Farm Africa have done a lot to these smallholder farmers, the things will be so amazing here in Tanzania. Through the different projects that Farm Africa are doing here in Tanzania, it has give the vision and it has give the power to the society, and it has given the changes on the agriculture sector, because now we can see that through the trainings and the many things that Farm Africa are doing, now involvement of women and the youth, it's coming up.
No, thank you, Helena. It's been a really interesting conversation, and it's great to hear what you've done already and what you've set out to achieve, but also what's still to come as well. And it sounds like you've got some great ideas to build on the positive successes you've had so far and continue to make great changes for women farming in Tanzania. So thank you for sharing your story with us.
great to hear from Helena, and to hear also what some of this fundraising money that people raise for Farm Africa goes towards. Luke, you might not know this about me, but back in 2022, I actually ran the London Marathon for Farm Africa, and it was a place that I got through the NFU, and it was an amazing experience, very hard. But actually hearing from Helena today about what some of that money has probably gone towards is really lovely, and know that it's going towards helping those that need it.
It's fantastic to hear you supported them at the London Marathon, Bizza. We won't compare marathon times because I'm worried that you'd have run it faster than I did. But we must wrap up. It's been a really fascinating show. I think the guests have been absolutely fantastic, and we've had a really interesting conversation. I know you need to get off and do some wedding planning, Bizza. You've got marquees, catering, music. I can assure you, the list goes on and on.
I'll be phoning you for a few hints and tips.
Of course, Bizza, you can call me for advice anytime. It's a very full-on process, but worth it in the end. That's the end of our episode. Thank you very much for listening, for joining us. If you would like any more information, you'll find it in the show notes. And I will see you, Bizza, at FarmFest. And we will see everyone else on the next podcast.
Yes, see you all soon.